Whole Foods Market has savings to power your day during the Kickstart the Season event. Take advantage of a huge sale on all supplements like vitamins, protein powders, probiotics, and more. There's a sale on all packaged coffee to get you back in the groove. Plus, find wallet-happy prices on breakfast like organic eggs and bacon from $3.65 by Whole Foods Market. And when the week gets busy, bring home a family meal and let the pros do the cooking. Kickstart fall at Whole Foods Market. Terms apply.
Today on CityCast DC, the only major grocery store east of the Anacostia River is facing a theft crisis, and it has prompted some big changes. Plus, we are talking about a food court, a heat wave, and a newly swimmable river. I'm here with my CityCast colleagues, Julia Karen and Kayla Cote-Stemmerman. Today is Friday, September 8th. I'm Michael Schaefer, and here's what DC is talking about. All right, so there is only one right now major grocery store east of the Anacostia. It's the Giant Food on Alabama Avenue. The people who run Giant, which is a locally based chain, have said they may have to close it because they have lost so much inventory to theft. Theft is a rising thing across the retail and grocery industry. There's been these crazy group thefts in CVS's in Ward 3 in Montgomery County, or a large number of people go in and all steal stuff at the same time with the idea that they can't be caught. I think what's going on Alabama Avenue has been more kind of prosaic pilferage, but they say that it's cost them 20%, plus they have to lay on extra security guards. They're taking a pretty drastic step, which is they're removing all of the national brand names of high-value things. Colgate, Tide, all of the national brand health and beauty products. These are things that can be stolen and resold at a decent price. They're leaving, store brand, private label, that kind of stuff on the shelves. Plus, when you leave, you're going to have to show them your receipt. It's kind of a sad thing. There's been, over the years, a lot of worry about food deserts in DC, about parts of town where there's no grocery that you can walk to, and even the ones to drive to or cross state line and so on. And the city has done a lot to try to woo grocers to fix this. But this sort of points at some of the other costs for the grocer. We often think, well, they don't want to open in a lower income neighborhood because maybe they can't sell as much fancy stuff. But they've also got these, the personnel costs are higher because you have to lay on security. There is a loss ratio with inventory. That ratio is apparently, they say, higher there, even if it's going up everywhere. And so you wind up having to basically make the store worse and make the experience for the consumers worse and mildly degrading to have to show your receipt to prove you're not a thief, etc. But the sort of trade-off that they're presenting is either that or no grocery for you.
Jeez. I mean, I would wonder if it's not only just this big grocery store that's getting hit by these thefts of Tide and Colgate and all these big brand names, if even a 7-Eleven in the area that might carry toothpaste, if that is also getting hit, I wonder if they're also going to be more well, we got to keep Colgate toothpaste under lock and key.
I'm sure they do that. Yeah.
Even, in almost any CVS you go to, things like the Mach 3 razor blades and stuff, those are already under lock and key because, they are both small and expensive, which is, a good combination for thieves.
I mean, 20% is actually a lot. That's a shocking number to me. It's interesting because I think part of me is wow, that is crazy. That's a lot. Why would, how can that possibly happen? But also the other part is if you're removing all of this inventory, it's it feels kind of the first step of pulling out of that neighborhood, which I think is really anxiety inducing.
Oh yeah.
For people who live in that neighborhood, because it feels like they don't really care to provide for that neighborhood anymore.
Right. I mean, and they would say, well, look, we're a business that has to make money. That's an unprofitable store. We tend to close unprofitable stores. Instead of closing it, we are willing to do X, Y, and Z to keep it open. I think they realized they would take a public relations hit for closing it. I think we've had this debate in DC, this ongoing debate about crime. We have settled, I think, on a policy where you're not going to throw the book at a shoplifter. And, I basically agree with that. But I think there's people who would look at this set of facts and say, well, see, and, this is, this is a place where the kind of cost to the community of low-level, nonviolent crime, it pops up. It's not just the store that is denied its ability to sell, Colgate.
And it seems like this isn't actually a new phenomenon. Like, the ANC there, Lenise Moore, said that this has been kind of going on there for years. So I'm curious, like, why is Giant drawing the line now? Why are they implementing all these measures now?
What they say is that nationally, post-pandemic, there has been a big surge in store thefts. So, if it at that store, if it's rising from a baseline that was higher, it's still rising. And so I guess that's why. I mean, it could be they're looking for an excuse to leave, and it's tricky politics to leave. But the grocery economy is a weird economy, and like these, as I understand it right now, like the kind of super high end places, like your Wegmans kind of stuff, they're doing great, and then these like Lidl, like the Aldi, the really hard bargain ones are doing great, and it's these stores in the middle that are very challenged, super, super thin profit margins, and so on. So, look at Giant is, it was under local ownership for a long time. It's got a unionized workforce. They pay decently. They treat people decently. But, at the end of the day, they do have to, make money in order to keep doing that.
Does help, yeah.
The one thing I do wonder is, in the conversation of having, other grocery store options across the river, are some of these other chains, like the Lidls, taking notice and being like, maybe I don't want to plop a store there? Or are they like, actually, we have a chance to make a lot of money because there's a lot of people who need to buy food and buy toiletries from us. And they're thinking, actually, the investment might be worth the risk because we could make a ton of money.
I mean, I feel like this is a way to kind of help grocery stores along and help keep them in neighborhoods where they might want to flee. It's a little bit maybe counterintuitive, but look, you have all over DC in rich neighborhoods and poor neighborhoods and troubled neighborhoods, there are stores that will sell you booze, right? Mm-hmm. They'll sell you beer and sell you alcohol, liquor. And often they don't sell much else. There's a few bags of chips, and so on. What if, DC's rules on beer, alcohol, and liquor sales, you have to buy liquor in a liquor store. Beer and alcohol chains can sell them, but only at a couple of their outlets, not all of them. If they were just allowed to sell alcohol, to sell liquor, as well as beer and wine, that could also help boost the profit margin. And if the fringe benefit of that is that there's fresh produce available too, it seems to me that's a better bargain than having liquor sales that leverage potato chip sales and not much else.
For sure. One thing I do wonder about, though, is the margin on alcohol also tends to be high. It tends to be, liquor in particular tends to be, a big spendy kind of product. I do wonder if people would go in and steal the alcohol as opposed to stealing, Tide Pods.
I mean, maybe, but would they make significant amounts more money in ways that enabled them to stay in business and continue to sell the stuff that people really worry about going away, which is to say fresh produce and other things that you can't get in a food desert? Yeah.
Do you enjoy stories that involve romance and passion? I know I do. And if so, I've got a play that you won't want to miss. Enter a world where love is forbidden and witness a priest's inner struggle when he falls for a beautiful member of his congregation. In this contemporary play at Gala Theater, faith and desire collide when Father Monroe, a devout Catholic priest, and a Havana pianist from his parish are drawn to each other. It's a spellbinding drama that explores the depths of passion, moral conflict, and sacrifice. Will they choose faith or surrender to the irresistible pull of their heartstrings? Come see this play, written and directed by Pulitzer winner Nilo Cruz, anytime from September 7th through October 1st, only at Gala Theater. More information and tickets available at galatheater.org.
Whole Foods Market has savings to power your day during the Kickstart the Season event. Take advantage of a huge sale on all supplements like vitamins, protein powders, probiotics, and more. There's a sale on all packaged coffee to get you back in the groove. Plus, find wallet-happy prices on breakfast like organic eggs and bacon from $3.65 by Whole Foods Market. And when the week gets busy, bring home a family meal and let the pros do the cooking. Kickstart fall at Whole Foods Market. Terms apply.
All right, so you guys, as you've maybe have noticed, it's hot out there. It's been really hot all week. It's been a thing at some schools. There's a classic every September in D.C. There's some schools where the air conditioning's not working and irate parents and so on. There's also, though, sort of on the flip side, you could, if the heat is too much, apparently, according to officials, and as a child of the 80s in Washington, it's very hard for me to say this, but apparently you can get out of the heat by jumping into the Anacostia River and it will be safe. What's going on with that, Julia?
All right, so I think everyone has noticed that as soon as you step outdoors, you are walking basically into a sauna. My AccuWeather app over the last couple of days has read over 100 degrees in the real feel category. I think the actual temperature was like 90 something degrees, but the real feel was 100. I don't love that. I'm sure you guys don't either. But what is happening is originally, at least in terms of pools staying open and it being super hot, a lot of the pools in the district close around Labor Day. That's like their firm cutoff. They're like, you know what? Like, we're done. Like, people don't really need pools anymore. The Hearst pool in Ward 3 and the Oxen Run pool in Ward 8, those are going to remain open until September 21st. So if it still remains, as the meme shows, where it's like we get a little hint of fall and then we actually get like a second summer in Hell's Front Porch, we are in the Hell's Front Porch area. If you want to jump into those pools, you can. In terms of wanting to jump into the river, though, which normally, as a child who jumped in the Potomac, I don't know that it helped or hindered my development. But you might remember that there was supposed to be a swimming event in the Anacostia River. They had cleaned up the river to the point where it was free of sewage and all the gross stuff in it. It was the first time people were going to be allowed to swim in it in 50 years. And in a turn of events that I find like very interesting, that event was canceled and rescheduled because heavy rains and sewer construction work caused overflows of untreated sewage water into the river. So the thing that they were supposedly celebrating, which was that the river was clean, got negged for a couple of days because of that overflow. That event got rescheduled to September 23rd. It's a free swim event because it is so dang hot. If you have to resort in jumping into the Anacostia River, I mean, at least now's the time to do it because it's clean again, you know?
But so the backstory here is the Anacostia was like one of the very polluted rivers.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of agricultural runoff from further up and so on. And there's been a long-term effort under a bunch of different DC mayors, under various EPA efforts to clean it up, and it is now clean. That's just an incredible, incredible change. The irony, I guess, that it was like their inaugural swimming party was like blown off course by like rains that are part of like the next environmental crisis.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just a huge thing.
It's wild that, like, again, like, I grew up swimming in the Potomac and we thought that was gross. I cannot imagine growing up next to the Anacostia and being like, and seeing the transformation from like literal sewage dumping ground to like actually swimmable water. So head to Kingman Island. Let's go swim in the Anacostia, maybe, possibly. That said, if you were wondering and hoping for fall and hoping like, you know what, maybe I can just go like leaf peeping or whatever. The answer is no, because it is so hot out, it actually might affect how our foliage looks. Apparently, because we're in a drought right now, we're going to talk about that on Monday's episode. Apparently, if all of the dry conditions that we've got persist and extend further into September, more of the trees in the area are going to lose their leaves earlier before they've gotten a chance to like turn those shades of orange and yellow and red that we really, really like. Basically, the leaves might not reach peak bloom, so we might be sacrificing our leaf peeping season because it's so dang hot. And I cannot abide that.
Really lose-lose all around here, honestly.
You thought it was going to be like, sad girl autumn. It's going to be sad girl autumn if I can't go leaf peeping. It's going to be hot girl autumn because it's going to be sweating in my apartment.
Yeah, I think the city is keeping the spray parks open as well until late September, and all the cooling centers remain open. So yeah, definitely take advantage of that.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys went this week to the Square, which was once known as International Square, and it was like a kind of lame indoor downtown mall with, not much. And it is now DC's newest food hall, which a food hall, for the uninitiated, is like a food court that you may remember from your neighborhood mall, but it's like a food court that's like gone to college or like gone on like the grand tour or something, which is to say it's like a place with a bunch of restaurant spaces, food court style, but that are tend to be like creative and envelope pushy and chefy and interesting. Anyway, this place is like right on K Street in like kind of the most disheartening part of downtown Washington, but it's gotten pretty good reviews. I don't know if you share those good reviews. What do you all say?
Yeah, so we went and checked it out on opening day. It sits right in the middle of downtown, like right by all of the law firm office buildings. It's going to open in phases, right? So this is the first phase. So right now, there's actually only 6 vendors that are open. And then there's like a bar in the middle that's like a sort of a high top bar. It's a huge space. It like takes up, like you said, the entire sort of bottom floor of this office building. And they're actually going to be only open for lunch for this first phase. So only open on weekdays from 11 to 3. So it's a little bit limited hours, but they're going to be extending to weekends and to dinner service in coming months. They're going to be adding more stalls. They're going to be adding more formal dining options, like sit-down dining options. And the whole thing is kind of this brainchild of Richie Brandenburg, who opened Union Market, and also Ruben Garcia, who has been the creative director for the Jose Andres sort of group. So there's some like pretty big chefy names behind the whole thing. And we literally tried food from every single vendor that was open. 2 of them were not open when we were there. Those were Taqueria Sochi and Yao Cho, which is like a Asian fried chicken joint. So we tried pretty much everything else, and we thought it was pretty good. I think the vibe for me kind of gave like more of like a mall food court vibe than like a Union Market vibe. It was very much
You mean aesthetically?
Aesthetically, yeah. It was like a little bit more formal, felt like a bit like a hotel lobby almost. The food stalls were sort of all lined up against the sides with like these, cafeteria style round tables in the middle. It didn't have quite like the hustle and bustle that Union Market does, or like that I sort of anticipate from one of these food halls. Maybe it's because most of the people coming were, office workers coming for lunch. They're not like tourists. They're not, like people on dates or something like that. So it gives a very different feel to the place. What did you think, Julia?
All right. So if you remember going to the mall as a 13-year-old and just hanging out in the food court, this is like your 13-year-old dream come true.
Totally.
Right? Because it's all of the stuff that you actually want, but kind of grown up. I was personally a big fan of the fact that Cashin's Rendezvous, which is the brainchild of Ann Cashin, who ran Cashin's Eat Place in Adams Morgan, rest in the most peace, is open there. And the oysters there, like on a hot, gross day, surprisingly good. I was not expecting oysters in as basically like a food court area to be that good. And yet, here we are.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great option for lunch. I think some of the prices ran a little bit on the higher side for a food stall, like $17, $19 a plate. And there's also the other sort of contradiction here is that there's a lot of really good lunch places in that area already, right? There's like Grazie, there's tons of different little like mom and pop like sandwich places. So it actually does have some competition in terms of like getting downtown office workers there. But we actually talked to Richie, and he said that he wanted the place to be more of a destination, right? So it wasn't just for office workers downtown. He wanted to be like drawing people there, just like Union Market draws, huge crowds on the weekends. Like that's the goal for this place.
But for the time being, it's open from 11 to 3 on weekdays.
Right. So right now it seems limited.
We ain't there yet.
Absolutely.
And I guess like, I mean, this is the big question that I guess they're successful like rise and fall on, which is, not just are, office workers in the least hip part of central Washington likely to be willing to pay $18 to have a chefier lunch from their office. But like, are there enough of them? I mean, this is also the epicenter of the kind of downtown bust of if you go to K or L Street in the middle of a weekday, it does not look like it did before the pandemic. There's just noticeably fewer people. Maybe more people will come if they have better options for making an exciting day of it. But do you guys think that this place is going to be able to get the traffic it takes to keep itself going?
It's interesting. I think there's going to be plenty of traffic from, just people who work there, right? Like it's literally in an office building, like there's going to be crowds. But I am curious whether it's going to be enough of a draw to like get people who don't come to downtown to come there, right? To like take the metro down and go somewhere that like, I mean, I haven't been on K Street in like an embarrassingly long amount of time until yesterday. Cause like I live in Adams Morgan, like everything I do is like either north or east, like nothing is downtown.
I think for a lot of people who actually live here, unless they happen to work in that neighborhood, they tend to avoid that neighborhood, and so it's like a place for like your like dermatologist appointment and or your office job and not much else.
I think my big takeaway from this is probably going to be for the people who work downtown. I think this is kind of going to be a bit of a boon. Like how many sweet green salads and chopped salads can you have before you're kind of slowly losing your mind? I think if people want like a treat at work, this is going to be a treat at work. But in terms of grabbing people beyond like back to office workers, I think they're going to have to work really, really hard to draw those people in. And maybe they will. I mean, they have that bar area, which like if you go to a Chopped or Sweet Green, they don't really have that. It's obviously offering a different thing. But I think they're going to have to really work to get those people.
I mean, it's great to see. I think this is the right idea if you want to bring people downtown, right? It's a good try. So if this doesn't work, I'm not sure what will. And they are going to be opening a bunch of new things later this fall, including like pizzeria, like a new sushi restaurant, like an entire like market area. There's going to be a restaurant by Ruben Garcia, Casa Teresa next door. So they're going to be expanding hours. So I'm very excited to see where this all goes. We might have to go back, for another little taste test.
See you there for that taste test.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
I am very much looking forward to getting my sushi downtown. Let's do it.
Awesome. Julia and Kayla, thank you guys for being here.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye.
And that is all for today here on CityCast DC. Our lead producer is Priyanka Tilve. Our producer is Julia Karen. Our newsletter writer is Kayla Cote-Stemmerman. Our production assistant is Susanna Brown. And our hosts are Bridget Todd and me, Michael Schaefer from Politico. Music is by Alex Roldan. If you enjoyed the show, shout its name while doing a cannonball into the Anacostia. We will be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye. If you enjoyed the show, oh no, why do you always do that to me?